ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अखण्डमण्डलाकारम् व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। We start today with this paragraph. I'm on page 121. Mind and divine mind. And I think in the older book it is in page 113. In the new book it is 120. The Lord within, Atman, expresses himself as two mighty forces. The power to act, Kriya Shakti, and the power to know, Jnana Shakti. The power to act in the Lord expresses itself in the form of consciousness, riding on the mind through the sense organs to the subject, objects, molding the mind stuff into the forms of the objects. This is the stage I am knowing. The power to know illumines this mental formation after the mold of the objects is formed within. When we experience the joy of I know it, the purpose of religious practices is to help man tune his inner equipments with this intelligent, dynamic, conscious principle. The human mind is a brilliant instrument. It can soar high to the subtlest peaks of knowledge. It can ring with its endless ingenuity the machinery through which scientific theories can be actualized into a solid contribution to society and the people. We have witnessed this in our own times. Yet, the very laboriously conceived and ingeniously assembled appliances of power and prosperity, of pleasure and happiness, of productivity and distribution, now maliciously turn, as it were, upon the very scientists who have conceived them and have multiplied problems for man to solve. Against these arrayed forces of sorrow and destruction, the very creators of the scientific era and the generation who glorifies the achievements of the materialistic age have no remedy at all, nor have they any known defense scheme so. Under the pressures of the mounting pile of problems, human, social, national, and international, a groaning society is listlessly rolling in voiceless agony, sobbing in tearless pain, tearing itself in disgust with naked hands, is this progress. So, yes, brilliant mind is there, and we have worked hard to assemble appliances. We have gained power. We want to control nature. We sought prosperity. All of this has come. Yet, what has happened? Problems have only multiplied. They don't seem to have sorted anything out. Such greed and ambition is there. If we thought of, the scientists thought of discovering and invented the atomic energy so that there is enough energy in the world for everyone to use. Unfortunately, that has also become the cause of destruction today. So scientists are not happy. And how come human suffering has not ended? In fact, it looks like it's only multiplied more. With all the so-called development, people are still hungry. People don't have enough to, live by. They are homeless. And that's why, as he says, the groaning society. Nobody is happy. Few or 10% of the entire population may be happy, 20%, at the cost of the remaining 80%. That's so unfortunate. And isn't this haphazard? Do we call this growth, or do we even call this intelligent living? This is something we must question ourselves. Isn't it? So is this progress, is what Gurudev is asking us. Indeed, the individual mind, at its moments of alert quietude and grand poise, can receive intimations from higher knowledge, and in such moments of electrified attention, the human mind can gain glimpses of the laws of nature in the orderly universe around it. But the truth still remains that the individual mind is limited. Where this fact is not recognized either due to man's vanity or due to his insufficient inquiry into the range of the use of the mind, his very tool of investigation, there we have a very miserable exhibition of folly, sorrow, and suffering from many an easily avoidable pain situation. The human mind has miraculous powers to contact, recognize, and evaluate the objects outside. But the very same mind in itself has its own imperfections and incapabilities. Perplexities scatter our mind when it is used for solving our personal problems that threaten the subjective life of the individual and us. When problems regarding our rights and duties arise, challenging our security and comfort, when problems of our emotions threatening spring up, when questions of our right relationship with the world, of things and beings burst forth in tidal dimensions, when we face our self ruinous habits, world destroying ambitions, disturbing lusts, shattering selfishness, or benumbing sorrows, suddenly we realize that we are torn apart within and have no answers to these inner problems, nor can we defend ourselves against them. With all the artillery we have created, the machinery we have rigged, the scientific knowledge we have mounted, or the incomparable era of prosperity and pleasure we have inaugurated. Still, it is a fact that we have no other choice than to live here, and we have to win the purpose of our life in spite of all these odds that stand against us. The only instrument of defense is our apparently powerful, but in fact very frail mind. How are we to strengthen our fortress against the incessant onslaught of the world of challenges around us? In case man is not capable of meeting these problems, he, being the very creator of it all, will be hounded down by the very monster that he has conceived and creative, and has successfully let loose upon himself and his community of fellow men. The Satan battling with God for supremacy and power. This is simply the world affairs today. Nothing different. We have created all the problems, supposedly intelligently created, and now we are lost in how to solve them. And the powers that be who have the authority to do something, are empowered to do, they have a very frail mind. They are looking at materialistic satisfaction, and this is where they are not able to find a cohesive solution. Today, the world has no remedy for this excruciating malady of the age. Each problem is diligently met by modern intellect with yet another more powerful solution. And each solution, instead of confronting the problem and crushing it for us, has been so far joining the array of our enemies and threatening us in added strength and with firmer determination to destroy us, the very creators of them all. This is very unfortunate. The moment you talk of development, what kind of development have we involved in? Which creates a problem for another section of society. So we have not looked at them. It has not been a holistic development. Each, out of greed and ambition, has created something for himself, which has served him for a finite time. And he enjoyed it, but he didn't realize, oh my, what all problems have come forth. That's why ancient wisdom always taught us that when you think and do something, when you plan to bring about a great change in the name of development, think about how it will affect the next 7 generations. And whether it is the right thing for all sections of society, not just one particular section. We must therefore seek for strength within, marshal our abilities against our self-created enemies who surround us on every side. This is done by turning our limited conditioned mind to the total mind, the universal creative energy, God. This higher mind is ever present, everywhere, for all to partake of its infinite strength and endless souls. This divine mind is ever ready to cooperate. Water in a clean lake is ever there for any thirsty pilgrim to partake of its cool comfort. Let us seek and reach this divine mind. Let us approach it through love. Let us seek it with love. Let us surrender unto it with love. Thus, when our mind in love gets tuned to the divine voltage, we shall get recharged, and a mind so replenished from its inexhaustible splendor shall feel rejuvenated, revived, and fulfilled. Once this alliance, sacred and divine, is made, we shall find that all our actions gain a new luster, a greater fullness, and an added momentum. To live in such a vital and dynamic atmosphere of sincere attunement, in a sense of being one with the Lord, is the secret of gaining a fuller effectiveness in actions and feelings and a greater sense of fulfillment in our life. This is true prayer. Pray we must, but let it be a revitalizing prayer, not a clamorous begging for gaining anything from Him. Let us discover pure love flooding our heart and lifting us upon its soaring billows into fresh horizons, bathed in the staggering beauty of the mighty total mind. Let us reach and claim and love its omnipotent power, will, and knowledge as our own. Let us, in prayerful meditation, realize what our real nature is through the grace and strength applied by the total mind, the God, the Lord of our heart, the very Lord of the universe, Jagadishwara. Ishvara is God, Jagat is the world. So here Gurudev says we must attune ourselves into the total mind. Total mind is Ishvara. This is an ideal, and this needs to be recognized, acknowledged, and put into practice. Our failure here is today, just as much as we have made use of concepts and natural resources for our own selfish gains, unfortunately, the communities together have somewhere along the line made commodities of gods also. This is my personal opinion. You see, they are trying to sell you in the name of God something. They are trying to get more and more people join their community in their belief system of a particular God. And that is acting exactly as the material person who, in his lust and greed and ambition to become materially prosperous, tries to bring about, in the name of development, create something for himself at the cost of other communities, sections of human beings, isn't it? Creating a problem for himself. This is the true essence of religion, and that's what Gurudev is saying. The divine mind is ever ready to cooperate. But how do we do it? Let us approach it through love. Let us seek it with love. Let us surrender unto it with love. When there is love, everything can coexist. I don't need to think that somebody has to think like me and pray to the same God like me and do the same rituals like I do and practice the same philosophy like me in the name of love or God. There is where it is not spiritual in nature, but it has become commodity for materialists to sell and buy. This is a very noble and it is a wonderful value when our mind in love gets tuned to the divine. So you live and let live. You have no problem with another person living and believing in his God the way he wants to. If you have love in your heart, only then can you connect to the essence of God, the divine being. Everything else is mere hallucination. That Ishvara that they are talking about so that they make many more people convert into their ideas, they are treating of it as an object of knowledge. In a sense, that's not the real. So be it whichever community or religion that you follow, if you can build this love in your heart and connect to the essence of the divine through love, this alliance is sacred and divine. Then the actions gain a new luster, there is greater fullness and added momentum. Only that will take us to world peace. Only that will cure problems of our society. But there are many people, for the sake of power and money, so that they have more control over human beings, would not allow for this to happen. These are the kind who follow. These are the asuras, the rakshasas, or what we know as followers of Satan. So we must, in prayerful meditation, realize our nature through the grace and strength supplied by God. Live according to those laws. That is the goal and purpose of the human body. The march of progress. The agitation of mind-intellect equipment in the seeker creates an impenetrable thought barrier between his sense of ego and the divine being, the infinite consciousness, which he is in his essential nature. All spiritual practices, sadhanas, are trainings by which the disturbances of thoughts are brought down to a minimum. Our mental power, so entirely invested today in our outward life, must be curbed in order to turn it all its richness and vitality to the within. To the extent we are successful in curbing the lower mind from its play in the lower planes, to that extent the higher mind shall discover itself naturally, reveling in its own meditative flights in the higher planes of pure consciousness. The path of sadhana must be intelligent, and it must be within the abilities of an average man to practice with ready ease and quick results. When continued sincerely, with a certain amount of heroic effort, there must be a rewarding result, or else in disappointment, an average seeker will leave the path and its pursuit. Our seers of Upanishads have discovered a very attractive and pleasant path to help us get established on the road to reality. They seem to point out a steady rising bridle path up to the higher summits of the mystic peaks. Thereafter, each may clearly find his way to the crown. Study of the scriptures in a spirit of total participation, directly through books, augmented with frequent listening to the learned exponents and a few direct contacts with the authentic master, is found to be very helpful in the beginning. The regular study of Upanishads, Gita, and such other spiritual literature is known as Swadhyaya. To repeat with or without the help of a rosary, mala, a mantra, continuously fixing our mind upon the divine imports and spiritual suggestions of the mystic word, thus repeated, is called japa. This technique keeps the mind always uplifted, away from the dark worlds of objects and their distracting fascinations, on to the reviving climes of the final spiritual illumination. The thoughts, chittam, become quiet and alert, and the mind gets more and more introverted into a spontaneous mood of meditation. When the thoughts have thus been nourished by study, swadhyaya, and rendered quiet and alert by japa, to rest such a mind at the altar of the self in a thrilling mood of choiceless contemplation is meditation, dhyanam. The rishis encourage us to combine these three main paths judicially, and thus deny the mind the least chance to wander freely into the spiritually unhygienic fields of sense gratification. While listening, Shravanam, we only participate in spiritual life. When we study Swadhyaya, we get involved in the ideas which we have listened to. In japa, our involvement deepens, and in meditation, we get ourselves totally committed to the ideal, which is the goal of all spiritual seekers. No progress in any walk of life is possible without leaving the present state and moving forward to win a new state of greater glory. No growth is possible unless there is a willingness to drop the previous conditions and accept the ample status of the new condition. Childhood must end in the youngster, the youth must end in the old. If a bud is not ready to end its present state, how can it grow and unfold itself to become a flower? Very beautifully. The seers of Upanishads, who are this way connected to the divine in love, in grace, really cherishing the highest in its essence, tell us how each one of us can connect. And that can happen when the mind is directed to it through regular japa, swadhyaya, and meditation. Listening to the scriptures, and this way we get more involved, in pursuing the highest, and we don't go wayward. Otherwise, the mind is very distracted. And each individual is supposed to do this and arrive at his own destination. This is what the Upanishads say. So the Upanishads have not told us that go and spread this word and convert people into this, but rather teach whoever is ready to make this connection with God. Otherwise, there's no need to give it to him. He has to come asking for it. This is the beauty. And how, when we are ready to, we automatically come into that spiritual evolution. Until then, we are in this world struggling to constantly, make something out of our life, give it some meaning and purpose, which is all living in hallucination. This is the essence of the Upanishads. Now we move on to chapter 8, Taming the Mind. When the seeker has decided to strive for a total transformation of his personality and then sincerely strives to tune himself with the total mind to become a God man, it becomes necessary that he must tackle his mind and bring it under his control. Mind is mere thought flow. Just as water continuously flowing in a given direction is a river, so too thought flow is the mind. Just as the continuous flow of gallons of water gives us the magnitude of the river, thoughts flowing continuously from an individual towards the world of objects is the mind. Naturally, as the character of the river is determined by the nature of its waters, so too the mind is also conditioned by its own thoughts. If the waters are clean, the river is clean. If the waters flow fast, the river is fast. The similarity is so complete that the same can be applied to the mind. The nature and behavior of thoughts in an individual's heart at a given moment must condition and define the type of mind the individual possesses at that time. Thus, if the thoughts are good, the mind is good. If the thoughts are agitated, the mind is agitated. To tame the river is to tame the flow of waters in it. Similarly, taming the mind constitutes a scheme with 3 definite programs. We have to change, first of all, the quality. Second, the quantity. And third, the direction of the thought flow in us, in order to fulfill a radical transformation of our present personality, both in its composition and structure, to thus gain a total transmutation of our lifestyle is the secret of our inner resurrection. So the quality, quantity, and the direction of thought. This is important. And this is really under our control. This is something we can easily bring about by being alert and vigilant. And only when we do this can we truly expect any transformation within us. Otherwise, all of this knowledge of Shastras remains bookish until we don't do this. The quality of thoughts gushing in our mind will depend upon the type of objects that initiate or sustain thought of nature of thoughts within. Company of good books, noble men, dynamic aspirations, inspiring ideals should necessarily change the color of our ideals and the beauty of thought patterns in our hearts. A river that is flooded and flowing, brimful at a terrific velocity, is not a phenomenon that can easily be controlled, directed, or ordered. For doing any work in taming the river, we have to wait until the flood subsides. Similarly, the human mind will swoop down with its flooded might all the individual's attempts at controlling or modifying it. It is only a quietened mind that is available for remolding. In a quiet mind, the quantity of thoughts flowing is specially minimized. So you see, quality of thoughts can be changed by what? How? Company of good books. We must read well and read really good books through which we improve our way of thinking, the quality of thoughts, and have satsang, be in the company of noble men who know much more and who practice values. Dynamic aspirations, our aspirations also should be in the very same direction. All this changes the quality. What about quantity? Quantity has to be reduced. So how? It is like taming this river. Arjuna tells Bhagavan Krishna also, oh, my mind is like the wind. It's like a storm, a gush of wind. It's very difficult to control. So what does Bhagavan Krishna tell him? He says, it is like the wild horse. You have to tame it. You have to, with practice, abhyas, it happens. You have to befriend it. Make friends with the horse. And then try to mount it. It's going to drop you 1 or 2 times. But you have to be friendly, getting to know it, appeasing it. Then it will allow you, that horse will allow you. That is how you bring the horse, you tame the horse, domesticate, and then ride it. Ride it in the direction you want, ride it with the speed that you want, and stop it when you have to stop. This way, you have to be able to control it. So, trying to reduce the number of thoughts in the mind. This state of flood is contributed by 3 main streams, which are the essential sources of river of thoughts. They are shackling memories of the past, benumbing fears for the future, freezing anxieties with the present, changes taking place around us. To control these 3 sources is the secret process by which the dimension, velocity, force, and gush of thoughts are controlled. Selfless, dedicated activities undertaken as an offering at the altar of our ideal in a spirit of surrender to the Lord of our heart is the only available method by which we can save our mind from these disastrous floods. When there is an ideal, then at the altar we can surrender all our regrets of the past, all our fears for the future, and all our anxieties in the present. When we work in the world in the spirit of dedication and surrender to the Lord, the mind becomes peaceful and serene. When this has become a habit of the karma yogi, the personality of the selfless worker becomes tame enough for remolding. Okay? So this is the way, the practice of karma yoga, selfless activities, and there are this gush, the quantity of thoughts come, they come from the regrets of the past, fears of the future, and anxiety about the present. This needs to be controlled, and anchoring in selfless activity and anchoring in the divine can bring about a great. And also, thus, if the quality of thoughts is changed by following the path of devotion, bhakti yoga, and the quantity of thoughts is controlled by pursuing the path of dedicated actions, karma, then the direction of thoughts is changed by the pursuit of knowledge, jnana. So you see, quality can be changed with bhakti, quantity has to be changed with karma yoga, and direction of thoughts, jnana. To lift ourselves from our abject of identification with our body, mind, and intellect, and end our individuality concept of ourselves, that we are mere perceivers, feelers, and thinkers. We seek to redirect our thoughts in the quest of the infinite self that expresses itself through these vehicles. We must understand that body, mind, and intellect are vehicles for us to reach that goal of divinity within us. We are not this perceiver, feeler, thinker. From the above, a true seeker should not jump to the conclusion that these three processes are mutually excluding factors. Each is not separate from the others. To each one of them, the other two are complementary. In fact, the quality cannot be changed without consciously or unconsciously changing the quantity and the direction of the thought. In fact, one in whom the quantity of thoughts has diminished, both the quality and direction of thoughts also change. And unless the quality and quantity are modified, direction of thought flow cannot be changed. So they are not exclusive of each other. They influence each other also. In short, the paths of devotion, bhakti, action, karma, and knowledge, jnana, are to be practiced in synthesis. Although each student may take one or the other as his main path according to the subjective mental temperament. However, each intelligent student shall discover for himself that whatever be his main path, the other two cannot be totally eliminated from his program of self-evolution. Since this triple program of changing the quality, quantity, and direction, each one so intrinsically interrelated with the other two, is such an integral one that the accomplishment of one becomes at once the fulfillment of the other two. Hence, the importance of the rosary technique, japa, wherein all these three come into full play. We propose to explain this technique of japa more exhaustively in the following paragraphs. So we go into japa, which Gurudev recommends to us. Japa, technique of rosary. And you know, in the Kali Yuga, it is said that japa could be the very sadhana for moksha, for attaining that perfect sense of perfection, attaining to that recognition of divine witness. So japa is the training by which the ever-dancing rays of the mind are persuaded to behave with some order and rhythm, and thereby generate in their cooperative effort a single melody of mantra chant. In this sadhana, the mind becomes extremely single-pointed. In fact, japa done properly and efficiently can bring about a sustained single-pointedness than all the hasty methods of meditation. A mind seasoned with japa is like pre-cooked food, which gets ready for consumption after a few seconds of mere warming it up. A short period of meditation can take a japa-oriented mind to unimaginable heights in an impossibly short time. So this sadhana is super, for it makes the mind single-pointed. And after you gain the single-pointedness, meditation becomes effort. And you can go into great heights. Therefore, japa, you can start with japa. The results accrued through the power of concentration are clearly noticeable in the world. Men who have distinguished themselves in different vocations owe their successes to single-pointed efforts with a tenacity of purpose, while failures in life are marked by a lack of concentration of the mind. This is true of anybody in the material world seeking material pleasure. Their successes have come because of focus and concentration, and their failures has been lack of concentration. The mind must be capable of steady, consistent, and single-pointed application if it is to achieve anything worth the name, either in the material or the spiritual life. When the mind lacks such integration, all the efforts put in by man dissipate into unproductive channels. A common phenomenon which demonstrates the power of concentration is the effect of the sun's rays on an object. The rays of the sun falling upon an object have no perceptible effect upon it, but when they are converged to a single point with the aid of a powerful convex lens, the concentration at the point can ignite the object. Japa is the training for the mind in fixing itself to a single line of thinking. We cannot pronounce a word without a thought form generated by it immediately in us. Nor can we have a thought form without its corresponding name. Try. Can you repeat the word pen without its form? Can you? In this close connection between the name and the form lies the underlying principle in the technique of japa. Name and form go together. They are never segregated. We must realize. And this is why they say do japa, so that you have the form. Japa, just doing japa of Coca-Cola and all that is not going to. You must understand the direction. Where is it to take you? What are the qualities that you need to get in your mind, isn't it? So when you do a japa of your Ishta Devata or of your Guru, then the qualities, the knowledge, the teachings, whatever comes to us, and we are focused, our mind is focused into that, meditation becomes easy. So japa and mantra are very important. Another important aspect of the technique of japa is that the principle of attachment to any object is by repetition of thoughts. Thoughts running continuously towards a particular object can create an attachment to it. When the thought flow is reduced, the attachment diminishes, and when the thought of an object is completely expelled from the mind, there is no attachment at all. The same principle is adopted in japa. With a continuous repetition of the name of the Lord, one gets attached to him, with a consequent detachment from the world and its entanglement. Japa is very effective mental discipline for spiritual progress. In recent history, there is an instance of the esteemed teacher of Shivaji, Samartha Ramadas, who perfected himself through japa yoga of the Shree Rama mantra. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. In the Gita, Sri Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, says, I am among the yogas, the japa. Have a special room or a corner of a room specially screened off for your prayers. Fix a charming picture of the Lord of your heart at such a height from the floor that when you sit in front of it, the Lord's feet are in level with your eyes. Spread a plain sheet, asana, for sitting in front of the Lord of your heart, Ishtadev. Have a rosary, mala, of 108 beads. Now start the japa under closed doors to begin. Sit on the asana in any comfortable position with folded legs. In the beginning, gaze at the Lord's beaming face, body, legs, and feet. Now slowly raise the gaze from the feet, legs, and body to the face of the Lord. Close the eyes now. Feel his presence within you. And try to visualize the Lord exactly as in the picture. Feel his presence around and within you as a gracious, holy blessing. Now repeat your chosen mantra a few times, slowly and steadily, with all the love that you are capable of. This invokes devotion in you to do japa most effective. Take the mala and search for the off head that is called the Meru. Bring the tips of your ring finger and thumb finger together and let the mala hang at this junction. Fervently repeat your mantra. At each repetition, turn one bead with the middle finger, always allowing the index finger to stand apart. Index fingers to stand apart. The index finger is considered to be an outcast because of its language. The finger is generally used in pointing out the other, in accusing, in threatening others. Essentially, the index finger is used to express duality and otherness of things and beings. When you have thus repeated 108 times your chosen mantra, naturally you will come back to the Meru bead. You have completed one mala. Now be careful. Do not cross the Meru. Turn the mala in such a way that the 109th mantra is counted on the bead with which the 108th mantra was registered. Thereafter, proceed with all sincerity and finish with your second mala of japa. Thus do about 20 malas of japa a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. This is what is recommended by Gurudev. What he means is when you finish one mala, don't continue with that. Just go back the other way around. You reach the same point, Meru, come back this way. This also helps in being vigilant and alert. Otherwise, you're doing this continuously and you realize you've slept off. This particular tip is only so that you realize you have reached the Meru, come back. So it helps you focus, brings your mind to that. So 20 malas morning, 20 malas evening. A mantra is a word symbol or symbols representing and expressing as closely as possible the particular view of God and the universe. There is nothing secretive about these mantras. All of them are in the scriptures, but when the mantra is given to the disciple by an enlightened teacher, it becomes a living seed. The teacher, by his spiritual power, gives life to the word and at the same time awakens the spiritual powers latent in the disciple. This is the secret of the teacher's initiation. Just as the mantra is an aid to meditation, worship of Kal, Durga, and so on is also an aid to meditation. The latter is called worship of God through an idol, pratika, or a form, pratima. Mind you, it is not the idol or the form that is worshipped, but the God in the idol or the form. The idol stands only as a suggestion of the ideal. These various forms of worship have been provided to suit the needs of different types of men at different stages of their spiritual evolution. This is just like a child when he begins to learn writing. He first draws big scrawls before he can successfully write properly. So too a person must acquire the power of concentrating his thoughts by fixing the mind first upon divine forms or symbols, and then after a fair success therein, he tries to fix his attention upon the formless divine presence. A mala generally consists of 108 beads strung together in a single cord with a little space between the beads. One of the beads protruding out is known as the main. At each chanting of the mantra, a bead is turned. So long as the mind is chanting the mantra, the rolling of the beads continues. But when the mind strays away to other realms, the movement of the mala stops, thereby causing a jerk. Thus, the practitioner becomes aware of the wandering of the mind and pulls it back into the track of continuous chanting. Japa is an easy method for people like us, kicked about and bullied by the worlds within and without. Start today, right now. There is no moment more sacred or auspicious as here and now for spiritual practice. This must be understood very clear. Any step towards spiritual evolution, any practice you plan, don't bother about what is the auspicious month and year and time. Here and now is the most auspicious. Anywhere, anytime, every time, everywhere. Remember, this should be the thought process. Any one of the following mantras can be taken up according to taste. Now, what are they? One is the Vaidika mantras. Tattvamasi, that thou art. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. I am Atma Brahma, the self is Brahman. Shivoham, Shivoham, I am auspicious Shiva. I am Brahman. And then you can choose the Pauranika mantras. What are they? Om Namo Narayana. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Shri Shanmukhaya Namaha. Om Shri Ramachandraya Namaha. Om Shri Lakshmaya Namaha. Let us now take a typical mantra. Om Namo Narayana. Meaning my prostrations into Narayana. And try to discover the attitude of surrender implied in it. Prostration is not merely a physical act of bowing, but is a conscious act of discovering the greatness in us and seeking our identity with it. To tune ourselves with the better or the nobler and thereby gathering unto ourselves the very qualities and greatness of the higher is true prostration. In order to prostrate, there must be at least two factors. The lower one who prostrates and the higher at whose feet the prostrations are offered. Within each one of us, there is the matter conditioned ego and the unconditional eternal self. The japist in himself is trying to end his false ego at the altar of himself, the supremely divine self, Sri Narayana. Thus, during the japa, the individual practicing it will be sincerely striving to totally surrender his personality to Narayana, who is the concept of the reality. So see, the prescription is given, the method, the function, the dosage, everything is given to us. And why of also. There is only required now our application. Thus, a mantra is a formula that at once explains to us not only what is the enduring truth in life, but also the technique by which we can reach it. O is the symbol of the infinite, which is finally attained through surrender and prostration, Namaha, of all our false identifications with the matter envelopments, or at the feet of the core of things, Narayana. When our individual personality concept is removed from ourselves, we come to experience the Narayana essence, which being the same everywhere at all times is itself the experience of Om Brahma. In fact, it is evident now that japa, when undertaken properly, can serve as a vehicle and lift us from the pains and ugliness of our imperfections to the very throne of the infinite, the perfect. So let us put our hearts and mind, and if we have not started till now, we should begin this sincere discipline, spiritual practice to put forth so that we come closer. This brings about change in what? The quality, quantity, and the direction of our thoughts. We become single pointed, focused on the essence of our true being, and thus come to recognize it and allow for expression from there in and through this body, mind, and intellect. That is the whole purpose of the spiritual journey. We go to see the pitfalls of japa that we shall see in the next class. For now, we shall conclude here. Om Namadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.
Shanti.